Hello everybody, I am Silvia Cárdenas and I am going to talk about differentiating instruction in a foreign language classroom. It's necessary to understand the concept of differentiating instruction. Differentiating instruction is a teaching and learning philosophy where teachers are encouraged to make adaptations in their lessons to address all students' needs during the learning process. Teachers need to understand that each student or learner is unique. Tomlinson mentions that instruction begins where students are not the front of a curriculum guide. It means that we cannot rely on our curriculum because we need to know our students. We need to meet the needs of our diverse students. Remember that Ecuadorian classrooms are crowded of students who are diverse because they can have their own language, their own cultural background, or studies backgrounds. Also, we need to meet the legal mandates. For example, in Ecuador, we have the ministerial agreement number 295. Here I'm sharing the link where you can find this ministerial agreement. To differentiate instruction, we need to understand about multiple intelligence. Also, we need to keep in mind our students' cultural and educational backgrounds. It's necessary to understand students' readiness, interests, and learning profiles because all these elements are important to plan a differentiated class. I am going to share you some web pages where you can find some surveys that you can apply in classes. For example, here I have the link. You can find this survey where you can find your students' strengths. When the students can complete, here you have the statements and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when the students finish the survey, they can click on here, find my strengths, and they will have the results like this example. This is my example. Also, you can find some surveys in Spanish. Probably it works in some settings. This is the link. Test estilos de aprendizaje. I told you before that you need to know your students' interests. I'm sharing 2 interest inventories. This is the link for this survey, and here I have another, and this is the link. Remember that you can adapt these surveys according to the needs in your classrooms. Well, what can we differentiate? We can differentiate content, process, and product. Content is what our students are going to learn, and the materials through which they are going to acquire the language. Process describes activities designed to ensure that the students use key skills to make sense out of essential ideas and information. Product are the elements through which students demonstrate and extend what they have learned. It's not essential to differentiate all the time. Remember, a teacher can differentiate at any point in a lesson or unit. Don't differentiate your elements in all possible ways. Just modify your instruction when a student needs it, and when you think that this modification is going to increase the students' motivation and they are going to understand lesson in a better way. And remember that homework is also part of the process. I am going to show you some ideas that you can do during English classes when differentiating content. For example, when you are differentiating content, you can provide a variety of texts, and they must be authentic. Documents, for example, brochures. Also, it's important to understand that you have a text, but you can also change in some cases because some lessons are not according to our students' needs. That's why I'm presenting differentiating instruction, because curriculum is flexible, so you can change and you are practicing differentiating instruction. For example, in process, you can work on many activities so the students can demonstrate that they are learning. For example, you can design a poster, they can work on oral presentations, they can report news. And the product, it will depend on the lesson or unit wall. Then I will present some ideas to differentiate the product. Remember that when you are differentiating during the process, you can work on group, on cooperative activities, and you can work in groups. So I am going to make some suggestions about group configuration. First, we need to help our students that they need to listen, they need to follow instructions, they need to do one at a time. Also, keep in mind that your students have different backgrounds, and these backgrounds can be written in records. Also, you need to recognize and identify the students' strengths and weaknesses because they are different, as I told you at the beginning. Remember, when you are going to work in groups, it's advisable that no more than 4 to 5 students per group. In my case, I prefer to work just with 3 students. And groups can be made up by mixed abilities, similar abilities, readiness levels, interests, learning styles, or multiple intelligence. It's important to provide individual group members with separate responsibilities. I mean that when they are working in groups, most of the time, only one student is going to work hard and the other students are just wait for the product. So I advise you to give some responsibilities. You can name a leader, a researcher, a presenter, or a narrator. Well, this is just my advice. You can change this. We have formal, informal, and base groups. Informal, it's to complete more complex tasks like writing a report or developing presentations. Informal, it's when we're going to work in something for a brief period of time. And base groups, it means that they are going to stay together for an entire term or even the academic year. Also, we can form groups random, or the students can select who they are going to work, or the teacher can determine the groups. Also, we can form groups based on students' interests, abilities, attitudes, or other characteristics. Also, we can have heterogeneous or homogeneous groups. This means that they can work mixed according to their abilities, or the same abilities can work together, but you shouldn't use only one for one group all the time. You need to change. And what about assessment? When I was telling you that you can differentiate product, I mean that you can differentiate the final activity or the product. Basically, we are talking about assessment, so it's not only tests and quizzes. We have many other ways that we can get information if our students have learned. Remember that the teacher need to get data from students every day based on their interests, skills, learning profiles, and it not just at the end of the unit. It happens continuously so the teacher can modify less lessons. Remember that the formative assessment provides important information about the effectiveness of curriculum and instruction. Teachers should rely on formative assessment to get a deep understanding about students' skills or concepts if they have acquired well. Summative assessment is also useful to demonstrate the students' understandings of the unit, content, and process. So we can have diagnosis in the formative assessment. We can have, summative assessment. We can have portfolios. We can have journal entries. We can have homework assignments. It depends on how you plan your classes. Finally, I would like to tell you that it's not easy to apply differentiated instruction, but this information can support the beginning of exploring differentiated instruction. Differentiated instruction can occur in different moments, and there is no single formula to accomplish the goal of providing differentiated instruction. Some difficulties can appear while practicing differentiated instruction, and the teachers need to consider them. Some colleagues and parents may not understand why learners are not doing the same things. Some can see it like an unfair way of teaching. It will take some time to plan and teacher can be upset. But you can surpass these obstacles by beginning with one new strategy at a time, remembering it's not necessary to differentiate every unit and every lesson. Inform administrators and parents about differentiators so you will not have problems. And I'm sharing some the references that I used to complete this work, and I want to thank you for your attention. That's it.